Welcome to the Queen Conversations podcast, the official podcast of United Queendom. I'm Teddi Rene, the career champion and founder of United Queendom. I used to wait and let life happen to me and was lost with no real career goals. Like so many other women, I was just happy to have a job at all. I never negotiated my salary or even knew that I could, even though I struggled as a single mother to take care of my kids and to run my small business. But one day I had enough and I quit my job. Little did I know, this experience would give me the confidence and tools I needed to take control of my career and my life. I went from depending on food stamps to feed my family to making more than 6 figures in less than 2 years. And now I'm helping other women do it too. So join me every episode as me and my guests invite you on our journey and give you tips, tools, and guidance to take control of your life and live it the way that you decide. Hey guys, it's Teddi Rene, the host of the Queen Conversations podcast, and I just want to welcome all of our returning listeners back, and a big shout out to all of you who are joining me for the first time. How are you doing? How's life? What you been up to? How you been kicking it? How have you been occupying your time? Please, guys, remember to like, share, subscribe, send me an email. I want to hear what you guys think about the show this season, about the guests. If you guys are learning anything, if you guys want me to talk about a specific topic, if you want to dig deeper into a topic that we've touched on, let me know, guys. I'm super excited for this season, as I've said before, and I love talking to you guys and getting feedback. It's absolutely helpful, and I truly appreciate you guys. But yeah, let's get into this episode. I'm really excited because for those of you who do not know or who are not familiar with the show, thus far we have only had female guests. All of our guests have been women, right? So today's guest is setting trends. He's making history. He's breaking the mold. He's opening the door for so many others. And it's completely appropriate because of exactly who he is, right? So my guest today is a technology entrepreneur with a strong passion for diversity and inclusion, and also for data science and analytics. He has a remarkable track record of completing high-profile mobile and online media endeavors for startups and big companies. Woo, my tongue got tied, guys. Sorry. But prior to founding Divercity Inc., he led analytics efforts at Unity 3D, Warner Brother, and Ubisoft. He was also a top performer at Deloitte Consulting. Shout out to Uncle D. He has earned his MBA from the MIT and is currently based in Los Angeles, California. I am so excited for this guest. Not only is he an amazing guy and, a champion for diversity and inclusion, he is also a fellow Founder Gym alumni. So let's start the conversation, guys. All right. So today we have a wonderful, amazing gentleman, a fellow Founders Gym well, not my cohort, but graduate. And I'm going to let him introduce himself. And also, when you're introducing yourself, just give me some information as to how your company is helping to create a better tomorrow.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Hi, my name is Chuka Ikokwu. I'm originally Nigerian, lived in the US the past 20 years, and I'm the co-founder of Divercity. And simply put, Divercity is an online and mobile platform that connects underrepresented professionals in the tech industry based on what job function or area of interest that they're involved with. And also, we're a job board where people can find job opportunities at companies that actually value diversity based on a number of things, diversity rating, diversity and inclusion representatives in the company. So we do a lot of homework to make sure that we're not just putting companies on there that want to check a box. So that's the ultimate story. And we came out in 2013 and have just been evolving since then. It's been a long journey and a lot of pivots as well, but that's the fun of it.
Nice. So you got started in about 2013. So why, or like, how did you come up with this idea, or why did you think that this was something that needed to exist in the world?
Sure. So it really came from several personal experiences. So myself and my co-founder, we both born and raised in Nigeria, moved to the US, and very quickly went through the system, got our undergraduate degrees, worked as consultants, went back and got our masters, and then came back to the industry. And it wasn't hard to notice when you're the only Black person out of hundreds of Caucasian people. But the mindset I had was never really, oh, because I'm Black, I cannot do this. But it's still hard to ignore the level of underrepresentation. And I compare my situation to Moses in the Bible. Moses was born Hebrew, but he grew up in the Egyptian palace, like an Egyptian castle as royalty. And he couldn't resist the fact that he was of Hebrew descent and his people were oppressed, and he couldn't do that anymore, just living large and all that. And I think for me, just as I was going through the system, as a senior analyst to manager to senior manager to director and all of that, I realized that there was something broken about how democratized the system was for minorities due to different reasons, like just not knowing what opportunities are available to you, to other companies not even knowing how biased they are. And also, I would say probably most importantly, the undervaluation of the impact of not having diverse teams. It's said that about $400 billion a year is lost in the tech industry due to lack of diversity. So when businesses know this, like, whether or not it's for the right reason, a business is still a business and they want to do what's best for the business. And the more they understand diversity is important, it's not just charity or anything like that, the more likely they are to act. So we started in 2013, and in 2017, that's when it became a full-time endeavor for me, because as an entrepreneur, there's only so much you can get done full-time and part-time. And, I think I learned the hard way for sure.
Nice. So you said that you don't just add companies on there. So what type of homework do you do to make sure that the companies that you guys are working with and recommending are absolutely worthy of your platform and your help?
Sure. So there's some selection criteria that we have, that the company is actively hiring, that they're financially stable, that they're generally located in a tech hub or are open to remote work, and that they are not too big. Big companies can actually go on there themselves, but the ones that we try to foster relationships with are companies with 2,000 people or less or so, because things tend to move quickly there. Whereas with the big companies, things move a lot slower and they can go at their own pace. But most importantly, the fact that they value diversity and inclusion, that's the thing we look out for. And some of the benchmarks we rely on are whether they have at least one champion, like a DEI champion internally. That doesn't have to be someone who has diversity and inclusion in their title, but it does need to be someone who internally is championing that the company does go after DEI initiatives. A lot of times the title helps, but it's not everything. Whether or not they have a budget or representation in any of the many conferences that exist now, whether it's Grace Hopper or NABA and NESB or Afrotech. And then also the diversity rating too. That's something that's a user-generated feature where you can go and rate Deloitte. I can go and rate Yahoo or Ubisoft or WB. My co-founder can go rate Ernst & Young. But folks can say, hey, this company, I give them 4 out of 5 stars or 5 out of 5 stars in all these areas because I've personally experienced it. And the more and more we get those ratings, the more we amalgamate this list of top companies to work for. So diversity rating is in the early stages, but it's something that we plan to continue to build out so that it could serve as its authority for not just lip service or that we have DEI on our website, but there are actually people there that can testify to the situation.
Right. So how are you, so first of all, are you defining diversity and inclusion as 2 separate pieces? And then how are you making that distinction between the two when you guys are looking into the diversity rating, or whether or not a company is absolutely diverse and inclusive?
Yes. So they are separate for sure, and we're not defining them as the same thing. They're not. We tend to use them in the same sentence, but we know that they're not the same thing. Now, one does rely on the other, because at the end of the day, companies they say that the direct measure of loss due to attrition is $16 billion. So people of color, women leaving companies that where they didn't feel included cost the tech industry $16 billion. And at some point, you would be hard pressed to find a very diverse company that's not inclusive, because they're correlated, very closely correlated. If a company is diverse and isn't including its underrepresented employees, eventually they're going to leave and go somewhere else where they suspect they may be more included and appreciated. So it's not just one of those things where we say, hey, get more underrepresented folks into your company. It's also more, hey, it's not just getting them in there, but you got to keep them as well. So we focus more on the diversity side. The inclusion side, that's where we want to partner more with professionals that can help companies retain, reduce friction and churn, and retain the people adding that diversity magic to their lineup.
Nice. Yeah, because I a lot of times people, so like during doing career consulting with like my clients and people who inquire about like how to navigate like the corporate space, I have noticed that a lot of people will say, oh yeah, well, we have a lot of people, like a lot of diversity there, but sometimes the staff does not feel like they are able to ascend the ladder and grow with the company, so they're leaving a lot. So in a lot of places, people are saying that the inclusion piece is missing. But to your point, I think that having a champion there working for diversity and inclusion within that space will absolutely is a great way to help. I do that now, kind of just rolled into that just because when you recognize that you're like the only Black person, or you're the only woman, or you're the only single parent, or you're the only whatever you are in the room or on your team, like similar to you, like you kind of feel like you have to kind of help other people kind of get there. Like I tried to run from it. It didn't work. I really tried. Okay, so we are in 2020. So you guys have been working on diversity for 7 years now, which is like amazing. The only thing I think I've done for 7 years straight is have a kid. But what is the next step for you guys? Like, what is the priority for the next, like 2020 and 2021?
Great question. So this is a turning point for us for sure, because number one, it's the first year that we're doing corporate taxes, which is a nightmare. I don't wish it on my worst enemy. So we're growing up. We're becoming an adult, because now we have companies like Google that are wanting to use the platform and making demands and saying, hey, can you guys do this and that? And we are also aiming to start monetizing the platform for companies. So it's always going to be free for the end user, and it is also free for companies, but we want to build out a premium service that converts us to a software as a service. And that's going to take a lot of technology work on the back end. So it's really a turning point for us, because we're even though a lot of us have been full-time for years, we never really got to the point where we're compelled as a business to grow up until this year. And it makes sense. I think it's just a natural step in that product life cycle. But this is the year, we become software as a service. We start doing corporate taxes. We raise an institutional round of funding, and the reputation just continues to grow. It's probably more likely the case that by next year, not this year, but by next year, the diversity name would become more synonymous with where do I go if I want to make sure that my next career move considers the fact that I'm an underrepresented professional.
Right. And I think that's really important, because the only place I can think of now, and the one that I recommend to all of my clients, is Glassdoor. Because Glassdoor has like those ratings where you can actually see people who've worked there, people who are in the process, but I never feel like it's enough. I'm like, okay, well, this person, like you can just, I don't know, maybe I just assume that I can read tone, and I'd be like, oh, this is like a white lady. Oh, this is like a white man. Like, where are all the Black people? Like, why are they not on here? And I could be wrong, but knowing that there's a space and a place where you guys are doing that fact checking and background work for underrepresented is absolutely, it's amazing. I love it. So as far as the tools and the things that are available for the user. So you said that it's always free of cost. So if I wanted to go sign up today, it would be free for me. What should I expect going onto the site and navigating it? Like, what's there for me?
Sure. So right now, for starters, what we do is we profile a user, and you know how sometimes a Black person can be racially profiled. For us, it's the opposite. We profile someone to highlight them and to make them to increase their visibility. So you go on there and you categorize yourself as a student or a professional, or hiring manager, a recruiter, or an entrepreneur. And then from there, you say what field of industry like that you're interested in, right? And what job functions you're interested in. You can upload a resume as well, because we do resume parsing to increase your visibility. And then from there, we suggest some diversity groups. All right, so think of them as special interest groups or enterprise resource groups like Blacks in Tech, women in recruiting. Maybe you could start single moms in consulting, whatever the case may be. But yeah, the whole idea is that we want people to build these communities where they're able to trade notes with each other and put out questions, share best practices, maybe even share job opportunities. And then from there, we also have, more companies are going to be posting jobs. So jobs will be fielded based on, if you are job seeking, then you would see what the recommended jobs are based on what you have. And I want to say, almost just as important, we have a diversity blog. The diversity blog, diversity.io/blog. The blog is called The Bridge. And on that blog, we're highlighting different topics that are relevant to the community. We have some staff writers, we have guest writers, but the whole idea is that we want to inform people and educate people on why does this matter to you. You may be successful and have a good six-figure job, but it's not to say that that's where the journey ends for you as an underrepresented professional. And then you have the people on the flip side, the people who have the power to do something about it, but are comfortable, be it for privilege sake or whatnot, that they could be also well informed. If someone shares a diversity article on LinkedIn, someone may see, oh wow, like I could do a lot better as a manager or as a team if my team was diverse, or whatever the case may be. So the blog, I think, is really a secret weapon for us, because of course you can get the SEO and the Google AdWords indexing, but you also get this this stronger sense of community by underrepresented writers informing us of things that are relevant to the industry, or just even their personal experiences that I think we can all learn from.
So is the blog is an open form content for just those who have used the platform and are registered on the platform, or would anyone be able to go on there? Like, do I have to have a profile to contribute to the blog?
No, it's open. You can go to diversity.io/blog and you should be able to access the blog, even if you're not registered on the platform. Of course, I think the full benefit comes from both, right? Being aware of the blog and also having a profile, but you can also check out the blog even without having a profile.
Nice. So I know we've said the word a lot and we've talked a lot about it, and we've talked about, what you guys are doing, but what does diversity for you personally, like what does it actually mean? Like a lot of people have different perspectives on what it means and what that definition entails, but what is it for you?
Sure. I think for me, it's deep. All right, it's deep, maybe even arguably controversial, because it's impossible for me to talk about diversity without going as far back as roots, as far back as African history, Black history. As someone who grew up in Nigeria, where everyone's Black, and the worst that you can experience is classism, and then came to America and has lived in America for most of his life, and has been in between all environments of Black, white, Hispanic, it's so clear to me that the society is the biggest influencer of where people end up or where they can go. The society is what influences race or unconscious bias and all those things. So the society shapes people's mindsets. And I think for me, my first few years here, when I first moved to America in 2000, I didn't really realize that there was a difference with being Black or white. I knew for, of course, like, Black is culture. So that was always the case in my head. But I also didn't think that I was disadvantaged because I was Black. And really that mindset didn't stop me from doing anything. In fact, you could argue that I was naive in thinking that I was invisible, but that mindset really made me feel invisible. And I think it even, if anything, it was almost like realized, like it was willed into existence. And the more I learned and connected more with Black history, like African American history, the more I realized that there is a gap, not just like a African American white gap, but even African American African gap, because of the mindset component, which is based on what we're exposed to in society and what we're taught. So I realized that, again, like the whole Moses thing, there's a strong sense of responsibility that any person of color or any underrepresented person has if they were blessed with a situation that puts them in a position to help. There's a responsibility there, because at the end of the day, African or African American, I'm still Black in America, and we all have the same roots, even much closer. So like I don't put the whole argument that everyone came from Africa. Like, yeah, but that was like tens of thousands of years ago, but we're just talking like hundreds of years, So we're really the same people, and it makes no sense that there will be such wide economic disparities or societal disparities between the same group of people. And technology is where the gap is widest. Technology is also where most of the money is. 64% of the country's GDP is from the tech industry. So given that the gap is widest in tech, the majority of money is in tech, it makes all the sense in the world that more and more underrepresented folks would take full advantage of what's at their disposal. And I think that, like I said, to what extent we feel like it, I think a lot of us have responsibilities as long as that gap remains as it is.
Hey, it's Teddy, and I need a favor. So for 2020 as a decade, my word, the overall theme is visibility, and I need your help to do that. If you would be so kind as to leave a genuine review of the Queen Conversations podcast on Apple Podcasts, then I will send you a free Queen Conversations podcast t-shirt from Paraphernalia University. To claim your free t-shirt, simply send a screenshot of your review with your size, your name, and shipping address to freetee@teddirene.com. That's FREETEE at teddirene.com. So just to recap, send a screenshot of your Apple Podcast review for the Queen Conversations podcast and get a free t-shirt from Paraphernalia University. Thank you so much for your help and your support. What is your insight on, even within the tech space, there, we always talk about like the wage disparity between women and men, but from like a Black male and African male perspective, what are your thoughts on the wage disparity between different races of men?
That's a great question. I don't have any hard data on that, but I would absolutely guess it's no different from the gender disparity. Meaning, I don't know if the percentages are the exact same, but I do know that there is a wide gap for similar reason, that because of the lack of privilege, I think it may be easy to think that, compared to what I'm used to, this is a big jump. Mm-hmm. Whereas, when you look at the industry standard, that big jump could still be very much underrated. So the data is out there, and I always encourage folks to, we do diversity recruiting. The one thing I'll add is that we also do staff placements. So we have select clients that we actively source people to, based on whatever field that person wants to work in. And a lot of times, male or female, underrepresented, they would think that the salary that they want that's the market salary, or, I don't know I haven't done any research, or I haven't done any value, but 9 out of 10 times it's less than what the company can pay. And you see, the thing with what companies budget when they pay, when they determine a salary, they don't think of the race of the person. If I say, hey, what's the budget for this engineering manager role? They will tell me 230 to 250,000, but they won't be like, oh, but if it's a Black person, then it's going to be 200,000,
right?
Or 180. They won't say that. But what ends up happening is that if these folks come in, a company that's not really thinking about the inclusion and equity aspect will not be quick to give, say, hey, I think you've been doing a great job. Let's do a 6-month raise, or let's do a raise in at least a year. So that's really where I think a lot of the damage is being done. But even just from the mindset of the person going into the role, a lot of times they may undervalue themselves just given their own baseline versus, oh, like when I was at Harvard, I saw that, 6 figures is the average salary for an MBA or whatever the case may be. So it really comes down to awareness and doing homework. Mm-hmm. But like I said earlier, the danger is the societal exposure and the baseline, because as human beings, that's just how we're wired. Mm-hmm. We're wired to think the way the society shapes us to think, or based on our own personal experiences versus the objective market standard.
Absolutely. And I 100% agree with that. The society tells us that we're not worth more than what we think we are. And it's a very difficult thing to try and break that mindset. So for anyone who is considering making a career change or entering into the tech space, with or without experience, what advice would you give to them on what their first few steps should be?
Yeah, so with or without experience, let me start with the without experience first. So if somebody wants to break into the tech space without experience, which is not a bad move because you can't go wrong if you have the drive, the best place to start would be to focus, to do homework on what you would be interested in. Because the biggest mistake someone can make is to go into the tech space without knowing exactly what they want to do in the tech space. It's very, very, very versatile. You can be a back-end engineer, you could be a front-end engineer, you could be a platform engineer, data engineer, machine learning engineer, a software architect, a site reliability engineer. I mean, the list goes on, and all these functions have specific nuances with them. So I think it's just important to think of, what do I enjoy doing? Do I enjoy working on mobile apps or websites? Do I want to design? Do I want to be more like the product manager person, or a product marketing manager person, or a business development? And all these functions can go, they pay well. I don't think, some may get you faster to the bracket than others, but they all pay well. So I think it's just important to align what you enjoy doing or what you would like to do with what's out there, for one. That will make all the difference. And then for two, now connect with people that can help you say, oh, hey, if you want to do this, you got to know this, learn this, master this, and do that. Go to an internship or apprenticeship. We offer internships all the time. We're getting to 100 now of people we've interned and given real work to build that work experience. And some of them have gone to Google, some of them have gone to Facebook, because at the end of the day, Google is still going to look for someone who has the hard skills. But a lot of times people, they may take a course on Coursera or Udemy or General Assembly, and okay, then what? It helps to materialize that work, the skills into real work, and then increase your visibility and candidacy. And then, you get the 6-figure paying job or high 5 figures or whatnot. And then you just go up from there, and again, because more companies are becoming more and more aware of this equity and inclusion thing, the gap is going to be closing internally, where they're just as likely to promote a Black person as they would a white person, or a woman as they would a man. So there's a lot of, don't get me wrong, it's multiple moving parts, but the majority of the work is on the person. Anyone, any day today can start down that path and get to their envisioned goal, at least the majority of it, if nothing else changes.
Nice. So with all of this that's currently happening with COVID-19, I know you guys, a part of the criteria is that the companies are open to remote work and whatnot, but what shifts or changes, or has there been any impact to your work with, with everyone moving to work from home at this point? And do you foresee any changes in the future of the workplace because of what's currently happening?
Yes, 110%. It's amazing how necessity is the mother of all invention, and creates situations that, you cannot avoid. So when you think of a world where everyone is working from home, or one or two people in the office, let's say 90%, even if it was 50% of people working from home, a month ago that figure was probably more like 5%, maybe 10% at most, and now it's like 90+%.
Mm-hmm.
So what that tells me, just as an economist, is that going forward, that metric is not going to go all the way back down to 5% or whatever it was before the pandemic, because now companies will realize, oh wow, like it seems like during this period we were able to get a lot done. We had more access to talent. We didn't have to pay office, at least like office expenses weren't as high. They were actually lower because of that reason. So they may do some math and realize, okay, maybe it's not the worst thing to allow remote work if we can put a tight rein on it. And then they will continue doing it. So from our perspective, what that does is it makes more talent available. Because I may find a Black senior software engineer in Kansas City that does not want to move to San Francisco because he's got a family of 3 and it's just too expensive.
Yep.
But he won't be disqualified because he doesn't want to relocate. And that's really where I think that's really the ultimate benefit we see coming out of this pandemic, is that now there will be more talent available. A lot of businesses too, though, will be reticent. They will be a little more bearish about investing in more. And those are the companies that, hey, I'm sorry for you, but if you couldn't design your situation in a way where you will not be completely destroyed by something like this, then you should consider a different business idea or like a major pivot. Mm-hmm. But it's never okay to act in fear and slow down, because while you're slowing down, other people are speeding up. So a lot of companies have been through that situation. We've lost clients for that reason, or they've frozen contracts because like, oh, we don't know what the future is going to hold. And no one could have predicted the situation. But I do think that it should be a learning experience for everyone who was hit hard and who was hit softly too.
Yeah.
As to how to proceed coming out of this situation that we're in.
Yeah, and to the point of like, I would love to work for a company in Silicon Valley, but I have 2 kids and there is absolutely no way that their dads would approve of me moving to the other side of the country. So like being able to apply and be a valid candidate for opportunities, not just constrained to a certain location, is absolutely something that I'm excited about. I mean, not just for me, but for, everyone out there, because a lot of people, like you said, we can't just up and move to the other side of the country for a job opportunity, even if it is our dream job and even if it will change our entire lives, because the sacrifice is too great. So I am, COVID-19, completely unfortunate set of circumstances, but my wish and my hope is that a lot more companies will remain open to the work from wherever space. And work from wherever is not just this privileged term that some people can do. Like, it's something that anyone can do, because we all need jobs to take care of our families. Yes. And sometimes the job that we are able to be best at and perform best in is not going to be up the street from our home. So I'm super excited to see what comes. So I don't know, like, I am excited about the future, but I kind of have my doubts about like how companies are going to respond. Like you said, some people may revert back, even though we don't expect them to revert back to their previous state. But like, are there any downfalls of, COVID-19 work from home that you see that may impact diversity and the users or the companies that are a part of your platform?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it depends on the company though. So for every company who wants to scale back and, reduce how many roles they're hiring for, maybe even pay lesser than the market would, there are companies that are coming out stronger or saying that we are going to be global pandemic proof in our operations and in our product, like the DoorDashes of the world, whoever it is that's thriving off these times like Zoom and Slack. I think that it's important to, I'm not saying, no one can predict the future. No one can know exactly what's going to happen. And you don't want to plan around fear or bad situations. But I do think that Mother Nature has just made us, or we've become, as a result of Mother Nature, more resilient, and we've had to adapt. People have been adapting for tens of thousands of years. So, and animals, millions, you know what I'm saying? Like tens of millions.
Yeah.
So the whole idea with adaptation applies to the tech industry for sure. And I think for us, I have learned, okay, don't rely too much on any one company or any one thing. Make sure that you can weather different storms, because what you have is not something that's like only a matter of time. I think it's safe to say that now in my lifetime, like from now till the end of my professional career, whenever that is, diversity will probably still be it will be a while before it becomes a boring and old topic, just like civil rights. Civil rights is not boring, but no one talks about civil rights every day. People talk about diversity every day, but I think that's because, okay, the majority of the work has been done, and there's still more work to be done, and there maybe always will, but it's not like one of the biggest matters right now, right? And that's what I want. That's where I want diversity to go. The topic diversity, not the company diversity. And I think in terms of diversity, we're gonna come out of this thing more focused and more like our thinking will have to broaden a bit more as to how we can have a reputation that is not dependent on what companies do or don't do, but more so more in the, I would say, more in the meat of the matter. The meat of the matter is that companies are more profitable when they're more diverse. A lot of companies realize that. How do we match the people who do and the people who can make that vision come to life? So that's really what we're going to be focused on going forward.
All right. So we've talked about diversity, and we've talked about employees and employment and working for other people. But as a founder, you've been doing this for 7 years now. What are, so I guess, some words of wisdom for those? Like, you have founded this company while working full-time at one point, correct? So what would be, I guess, your number one, maybe top two pieces of advice for someone who is in the workplace, but is also looking to build something or to start something, or who may already have started? Like, what advice can you give to the founders out there?
Sure. Great question. I mean, this is something I'm always willing to do. I could have a separate meeting just on that topic alone, but it is something that I want to, help share as much as possible. I would say number one is to really think. People don't do that enough. People just start, and it's good to do. You always want to do, because words are cheap, but I think it's important to count the cost and lay the foundation for whatever it is that you feel convicted about or strongly about. But just think about, if it's a business, it's one thing if it's a nonprofit, but if it's not a nonprofit, this is a business that you want to at some point have generate money, become an LLC or a corporation, S or C corp. Think about what the business model is and how whatever you start working on will directly tie to that business model. You may not need to start making money anytime soon. It could be years even. It took us, I don't know, it took us 7 years before we made our first dollar, right? It took Amazon 7 years also. So before they became profitable, actually, same with us. So I think in the case of an entrepreneur, think of the idea first of all, and make sure that you don't go too far without a fleshed out business model. In fact, don't even start without a fleshed out business model. That's what I would advise. Second thing is user experience. If you're building a product that somebody else is going to use, doubly think about user experience. Get a user research intern, UI intern, UX intern to flex their muscle on your idea, if that's not a natural skill for you, and imagine what it would be like for them if you were in their shoes. I think it could be very easy to think myopically and think from your perspective of, oh yeah, well, I envision it this way. But in real life, someone could be like, oh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, blah, blah, blah. So you don't want that. So try to pick that in earlier. And then the third thing I would say would be, to make sure that you're not wasting money, right? Because there's so many services that, like whether it's outsourcing services or tools that you're not ready to use yet, that will want to get your attention and your money, whatever it is, whether it's friends and family or seeds or angel or accelerator funds. So I think it'll be important to always count the cost on what you need to spend money on and spend it wisely as well. I think in our earlier days, I spent money outsourcing the stuff I shouldn't have outsourced. I feel like we could have been a bit more closer to the chest with our development. Mm-hmm. So some lessons you learn the hard way, and that's why I'm sharing it now. Like, don't make the mistake I made. Don't make any of those mistakes that I made.
I love it. And I'm happy to hear all of those things. As a founder, like my thought process is similar. Like I don't outsource anything that I can at least attempt myself. And learning the process to your point of like exactly what it is that I want to build and how the user is going to experience it, and whether or not I'm the best person to produce that portion of it or not. So that's amazing advice. Thank you so much for sharing. So before we do disconnect, are there any final words, any Chuka quote you want to share with us? Any last words for the guests, including where we can find you, where we can find Divercity, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I mean, I did want to mention earlier, it's not a quote per se, but I do want to say that the number one most important virtue for anyone who has a vision, be it professional or entrepreneurial, is perseverance. Because you hear a lot of times, 9 out of 10 businesses fail. 95% of companies, like after the first year, got a business, blah, blah, blah. Nonsense. I think what no one emphasizes is that if you felt very strongly about something, then you will not give up on that thing no matter what. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't pivot or improve or learn or ask advice or double or triple or quadruple hustle. But it's just more so it's difficult, like the whole game is not an easy game. I think everyone knows that, but the perseverance element is huge. It's unbelievable. It's everything by far, because you're going to learn a lot of things just from persevering. So that is the main thing I did want to mention. And also just in terms of the Divercity app itself, I mean, where our name Divercity with a C, it's pretty self-explanatory. Divercity.io is the website. I do recommend, at least follow us on LinkedIn because we're posting a lot of material there. Check out the blog. The maximum experience would be to create a profile and download the application from the App Store, because we keep building this thing out every day, and we are serving underrepresented professionals ultimately. So there's literally nothing to lose, only stuff to gain. And thank you so much for United Queendom. I think it's always amazing when I connect with folks that do this, to an extent as like a labor of love in a way. Like they're doing it for the people who need it, as opposed to doing it just for themselves. And that is something I know isn't always appreciated, but I do appreciate it. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people do as well.
Well, thank you so much. And like I told you earlier, I appreciate the work you're doing because like I am a part of your target demographic. And I was someone who was lost and needed all of the advice and the guidance and the resources that you have. And by no means am I just a special or unique person. So I know that what you're doing is helping so many people absolutely who need it and who will benefit from it. And what they'll do will touch so many others. So I just appreciate you and your efforts and your perseverance. And we'll continue to follow you and support you guys however we can. So if you have anything you guys ever need a hand or anything, you want us to help promote anything, or you guys, testing out new features, always, you have a nice little partner here to help whatever you need. I'll connect you with whoever I can and, just continue to do all of the great work that you guys are doing. But thank you again for joining me, and that's it. Bye.
Thank you.
To learn more about Chuka and Divercity Inc., visit them at www.divercity.io. That's DIVECITY.io. You can follow them on Instagram and Facebook at Divercity App, or on Twitter at Get Divercity.